What is happening, y'all? Cowboy here, and welcome to my ultimate heavy bowgun guide. Now, what it lacks in mobility, it more than makes up for in terms of its defensive capability, and the heavy bowgun is probably one of the most straightforward weapons in the game. You're not going to be, dashing around enemies like the light bowgun or dodging through attacks like the bow, but it still pumps respectable damage, and anytime something is going to bonk you, you have a nice little passive guard that's built in, like you saw right there. We got some very nice additions coming into this, like an offensive guard where we can perfectly time, and then look at that, we even get a little dash out of it. So there's some nice things that it got, and while it's not my favorite weapon just because I tend to be more on the side of quicker weapons, it is a respectable choice and one that will certainly get the job done. Either way, as always, there will be spoilers. Let's jump in. Talk about all the new additions to heavy bowgun, take a look at some recommended bowguns, some recommended armors, and then of course, go out on a hunt. Jumping on into the weapon controls, there's not a whole lot to cover here. We aim with left trigger, we fire with right trigger, B switches our modes, and as opposed to it being more of a special, how it was in both World and Rise, now it is a full-on mode change. So it's very similar for the case of Wyvern Heart, because we turn on Wyvern Heart and we go into it. But we also have Wyvern Snipe is very different now in the sense that we're going to be doing multiple shots. We'll talk about that all in a second. But the big distinction here, as opposed to light bowgun, where it's more like you're gunning and then you have a special, this is a full-on mode swap. So like half the time you're gunning, half the time you're in ignition. We have passive guard, but by pressing Y and B, we do a manual guard. This is the equivalent to guarding with a lance. And when we time this with a perfect guard, we get a special sidestep out of it, which you saw earlier. And we can also proc offensive guard out of that, giving us a nice attack boost. Now, hopping over here, I already mentioned it, but ignition mode is our new gauge. And the idea is ignition mode will just fill up over time, and it will fill up also as we are shooting the enemy with whatever our ammunition is. And as it recovers, we can then go into ignition mode and start pumping out damage into the enemy, which is the various special ammos you see below. Wyvern Heart is essentially a Gatling gun. It is very fun. Wyvern Piercer are some slow-moving pierce rounds that will progressively move through the enemy, dealing more and more damage. Pretty nice. Wyvern Counter is our offset ability, and we get this by holding Y while we're aiming in ignition mode. And then Wyvern Blast is kind of like Cluster Bomb's little brother. The damage on this, at first, I thought it was very underwhelming, but after doing some damage tests, it turns out it's actually pretty solid. It is high commitment to use your entire ignition gauge with this, so I would only consider it on a down monster. But if you are a big fan of cluster bombing, this might be right up your alley. Lastly, we have the Focus Blast, and similar to light bowgun's Focus Blast, this can also has a little bit of AoE on it, so it's decent, but we do have to go down on one knee and name this to fire it, so I think it's one of the slower focus attacks to get out and connect with. But either way, the basic gist, if my meter's full, I'm going into Wyvern Heart. Now, whether you're going into Wyvern Heart or Wyvern Snipe or whatever the case is, you're just going to dump out that ammo, and then if I have an attack coming, I can get off that big juicy offset. You can see that can come out pretty fast, or I could also alternatively sit and charge that, and then I'm going to automatically go out of the mode and start shooting. Now, what ammo you use is up to you. You can see normal gauge fills things a little bit slower. If I go over to spread, you can see I'm getting little chunks on my gauge. In general, I find Pierce to be kind of like the happy medium, because my thought is I want to even though I have a guard, I don't like getting right up on top of stuff. But I'm just going to shoot and shoot and shoot, and then as that fills up, I'm then going to, once again, gauge is full, hop on over, and it's special mode time. Now, just to also show the offset once again, like I said, you can hold this for quite a while, and it'll increase the power of that. And it's as opposed to a lot of moves where it feels like you need to, really let it loose at the last second. As you saw right there, it's actually pretty forgiving on this. I feel like I'm kind of holding it, and the second I see, a move coming, I'll let it rip. And you can see just how long we're able to hold that, which even if it doesn't hit anything, it's still going to do some damage. But as soon as it looks like an attack's coming, I'm like, oh, I'll let it go. And that was too late. But I can... There we go. So that would have been as it hit me. Earlier, I managed to get one out as it started moving when it was right about there. But so it's a pretty respectable offset. It obviously feels a little bit sketchy having to sit on one knee here it comes, I'm going to hit you with it, come get close to me. But it is a good offset regardless. And then our wound, as I mentioned, you can get that out kind of quick. But one thing is, after you shoot it, I would roll out, because you can see if I'm aiming this, I'm going to go down, I'm going to shoot, and then I'm going to roll out as fast as I can, because that's a pretty long commitment for getting a focus attack. And that is about it. The only other thing, I guess, talking about guarding, if you're not shooting and you just aim, you're just going to get a guard out. As I mentioned, if you want to get the perfect guard, we need to hit Y and B. And then out of that, I can dash, which covers some pretty nice distance. I can also go side to side with it. That gives you some pretty nice mobility. I mean, it's something with a weapon that doesn't really have much in terms of mobility. Now, hopping over here, I do want to do this earlier. I meant to do it earlier with the light bowgun, but talking about customization. Now, our first category is pretty much always going to be either powder or magazine. Powder is going to increase the level, so you can see it's increasing the spread, the pierce, the normal, or the elemental ammo. And then some bowguns instead, like this one, this has magazine, so that's going to increase how many shots I get with that particular magazine. Besides that, our secondary is going to be a couple things. It's either going to be an ignition mode upgrade, or it's going to be an ignition mod. Sometimes you get, this one has, that's ignition mode upgrade as well. There we go, standard mode upgrade. And to talk about these two, so standard mode versus ignition mode. One of them is going to increase the damage of your standard shots. The other, which is like this one over here, is going to increase the damage of our ignition shots. Now, if I remember correctly, I want to say it's 10% per level. So ignition mode ST2 is 20% stronger ignition mode compared to a completely neutral. Alternatively, if you went ignition mode, if you went here with ignition mod, it's going to increase the gauge recovery. So the gauge is going to fill faster, but to be honest, the gauge fills pretty fast already, and I'd rather have an extra 10% damage. So I typically go all the way one way or the other. So like with this, I'm going ignition mode upgrade because this is very much a Wyvern Heart style of gun. With this, I go ignition mode. This is like my Wyvern Piercer setup. And then with this is just me piercing. So this particular heavy bowgun, pierce ammo powder, which puts that up to level 2. And then standard mode upgrade, putting me to standard 2. And this thing comes only pierce 2, but with 6 capacity on it. And that 6 capacity along with the ST2 is actually pretty respectable in terms of showing the damage of that compared to my Ardian, because the Ardian is obviously very solid. Just to give you all an idea of numbers, you know, I hit 140 on that shot, 187 on that one with some crits. We'll pull out the my Pierce heavy bowgun, which to be fair, I don't use this all that much just because I have the light one, which I really like. Just making sure none of that's going to matter here. Yeah, so with this, I do run the piercing deco to get extra damage on it. Get that critical range. Look at that, 193. That's pierce 2. You can see this thing will just ramp up. And keep in mind, this doesn't have tetrad shot. Since I have the 6-round clip on this, I could go tetrad shot on it, and then the 4th and the 6th are going to be hitting even harder. If I really wanted to be goofy, I could potentially do like opening shot and tetrad shot. That'd be pretty funny, but I don't know if it has the deco capacity to support that. Do you? No, you have a 3-2. So I'd probably, I don't know, I might drop Pierce for tetrad. Tetrad's pretty good. But either way, that is the gist on the ammos. Now, down at the bottom, very similar to light bowgun, we just pick what we want, whether you want Wyvern Heart or Wyvern Piercer. Wyvern Piercer, I mean, it's nice. There's something about a Gatling gun and hitting a monster with it that's very satisfying. But Wyvern Piercer isn't bad by any means. You fire this up, and then you can see we're just doing these like very slow shots. And it doesn't look like a lot of damage. You're probably looking at this and you're like, bro, that's weaker than the Pierce gun you just had. And keep in mind, it's meant for long boys. So it's gonna seem weaker because this just isn't a good target to be shooting with Wyvern Piercer at. But on something like an Anjanath, a Rathalos, anything that has a nice long body, you're going to be doing pretty solid with that. And then the other, we choose between Wyvern Blast or Wyvern Counter, which is why I have the one gun that's Wyvern Heart and Wyvern Counter. And then I usually have Wyvern Piercer, Wyvern Blast. Well, that one should be, yeah, that one's the Wyvern Blast. But just to show Wyvern Blast real fast, same thing, I go into the special, and then I will hold Y to charge this up, and then boom, boom, boom. Like I said, it's you know, baby cluster bombs. So not the craziest damage, but you know, it is what it is. But either way, that's going to cover it for pretty much everything there is to need to know when it comes to playing with the heavy bowgun. Like I said, this is a very, very simple weapon to run with. It's got a built-in guard. I think the hardest part of heavy bowgun is just, you know, how slow you are and making sure you're not overcommitting. But either way, let's jump into town and look at some weapon recommendations. Now, making our way on over to our lovely smith over here. pull things up and take a look at some of the better heavy bow guns. Now, like I said, even though it's just the ore tree, I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Steel Assault because it does have standard mode ST2. Now, that's for Pierce. The one competitor here, which, full disclosure, I have not tested yet, but I think the Gormagala might be able to beat it out. Gormagala comes in at 20 less raw, but 20% affinity. And we only have 4 shots, but it's going to be Pierce level 3. So I think this has the potential to be competitive, mainly because it's also a ST2, and that's the big thing we're looking for. If I'm focused mainly on my ammo and piercing, ST2 is just, you know, free damage. But, oh, Steel Assault already has Tetrad built in, which is amazing. And Tetrad is huge because the 4th and 6th shot are going to be better. So that has Tetrad, whereas this has critical element. So this would be pretty close, but, you know, Steel Assault is infinitely easier to make. Besides that, Gravios, I actually like Gravios a lot. It's kind of like a meme gun, but I like that it literally has Gravios' face. And like I said, spread is kind of dead, but 240 attack, minus 15 affinity, has guard up on it, has 3 shots of spread 3, has cluster bombs, has sleep. It's the meme heavy bowgun, and I have done some hunts with it. It's decent, but you know, you know what you're getting in when you pick a spread and cluster heavy bowgun. You know what you're getting. Moving on from there, as for normal, the only one that I would really call out as worthwhile in normal, and honestly this is going to get beaten out by Ardian, but right here, the Guardian Arkfeld, this is going to be 240 minus 10. It has 4 shots of normal 3, which is decent, but it's standard ignition base type as opposed to ST2. So I mean, that's not bad, it's just it could have more damage. And I don't know if there's an ST2 that does normal, to be honest. Your ST2, you're 2 at 5 capacity, so that one might not be bad. But to be honest, if you're doing normal, you're going to want to do Ardian anyway. Ardian is where you're going to be able to get the best returns on a normal bowgun, or normal heavy bowgun. Now, one thing I want to call out, I haven't tested Elemental, because I generally am not a giant fan of Elemental heavy bowgunning. I have heard very good things about it from both Altair and Fem. Those are 2 of like the premier ranged players in the Monster Hunter community. They have infinitely more experience than I do. And they have been saying that Elemental heavy bowgun is actually very respectable. Now, in terms of Elemental heavy bowgun, if you want to go that route, obviously we can just tab over here. Oh, look at that. This one has level 2 freeze and 8 shots of freeze. And a lot of them are going to be decent. So freeze would be Jin Dahad. Fire would be, I believe it's our, not our Rathian. Where's our Rathalos at? Somewhere in this tree. Not the water. Where are you at? Okay, there we go. This is for water. That's the Uthuna one. New Udra is the fire. Okay. And then the lightning was the Fulgar. Now, if you don't want to go through the process of making all those because you're considering like, oh, well, what about the stats? You know, what about the negative affinity? Crafting an Ardian heavy bowgun is pretty straightforward. So it's just, you know, whatever you want. If I want to make a fire, go fire, fire, fire. I'm going to get 205 on it. It's going to have 26 on fire. It's going to be decent. Now, there are a couple other things. It's kind of weird how certain stuff works. Like, for example, if I take multiple poisons with Ardian, you can see it's going to get poison and water. And then, you know, it has the elemental ammo powder already on, but it'll pick up a secondary, basically. So with paralysis, I believe we get paralysis and thunder. Yeah, paralysis and thunder. And then if I was to do an additional paralysis, you can see my thunder is going up to 5, while my paralysis shot is at 4. But honestly, if you're going to use one of these, I think the big thing is it's going to be level 2 across the board on normal, pierce, and spread. And so you could change out that elemental ammo powder for anything and make it level 3 normal, pierce, or spread. And then on top of that, we are obviously able to roll on these. Taking a look at my particular Ardian, I think I got a pretty respectable roll on this. But my Grief Friend came in with capacity boost, 3 attack, and capacity boost, which is solid. I mean, that's an extra 2 on capacity boost, which puts me up to 4. So with Pierce, if I wanted to use Tetrad, I could get some benefit out of that. But so when it comes to your heavy bowguns, honestly, the easiest route is probably just going to be Ardian because of the fact that we can roll to get those higher capacities, or get that more, get that higher attack, get that higher affinity, whatever you're looking for. But there are a couple of craftables that I think are comparable. Now, in terms of armor choices, very similar to light bowgun, there's not a whole lot that we're concerned with in armor skills. And I've said it once, I'll say it again for the 14th time. The only thing I'd really call it is evade extender. You know, we have complete shite for dodge with heavy bowgun, and evade extender will certainly help to offset that. Once we get into high rank, there's a couple pieces if you find yourself taking a lot of hits. New Udra works out. Gore, obviously, you're picking up some, excuse me. You're picking up some decent bonuses with Gore, with evade window, and you could also supplement that with evade extender just to be a lot more evasive. But all of your stuff like guard and guard up, that is going to be in the form of weapon decos, which we're not going to really be working with because we're trying to maximize our damage. So things are kind of dead on that front. If you wanted to work some healing in, obviously the flare armor coming out of Guardian Arkfeld is going to be a decent choice as well. But I think it's easier to just show you my particular build. I have two builds for heavy bowgun. The first, I've been going back and forth between them. This is actually identical to the light bowgunning build that I had. And so we're running 4-piece Gore and Arc Vulcan, and along with Exploiter Charm, and this basically gives us 5 Wex, 3 Max Might, Evade Window is up at 5, Divine Blessing, and Antivirus. And so we're picking up quite a bit of crit out of this, especially because we're going to get, you know, we'll be up to 35 from Max Might alone, and then we're going to get up to 60 when we overcome Antivirus, and then the remaining comes from Weakness Exploit. So we would be up at a 90% crit chance on weak spots, with the Gore buff up as well as Weakness Exploit. So it's pretty solid. It's going to pump some good damage. If you don't like playing around Gore, the other set... Oh, man, this is the last guide. I'm so tired. The other set is this one, which I'm running right here. And this is a combination of 2-piece Udra and then just kind of some random pieces slapped together. But the idea here is we still have level 5 Wex. We have Burst, we have Counter Strike, and then a little bit of Max Might and Resentment. And what we're really counting on here is getting hit in the face so that we can proc Counter Strike. You know, if you find yourself overcommitting a lot with heavy bowgun, this is a safe bet because you're just going to be getting extra attack coming in from Counter Strike every time you get hit. So that can certainly help things along. Now, as the other big reason for Ardian is, when it comes to decos, Ardians are always going to have 3 level 3s, and we can't always guarantee what we want. You know, the one Pierce gun, which had Tetrad Shot already on it, that's solid. But with this, since we are built specifically for Wyvern Heart, with the Ignition Mode upgrade, getting that to Ignition Mode ST2, this is a build around Wyvern Heart. So we're going to be going Guardian Deco because, I mean, it's 15%. There's no reason to not have offensive garb. We're going to be running a True Shot Jewel level 2. That's going to further bolster the damage of our Wyvern Heart. And then I'm not a giant fan of it, but we are going to run Focus, just because Focus is going to allow that gauge to charge up even faster. Now, if you're okay not going for Focus, there is a couple other things that you could work in. Obviously, you could go for Tetrad Shot. I'd only suggest using this if you have at minimum 4. If you have less than 4, you don't want to use Tetrad Shot. Ideally, it's used when you have 6 for your magazine capacity, because then you're getting the 4th shot and the 6th shot bonuses. Another consideration would be ballistics, but I really don't think it's that hard. I think ballistics is actually what I was running in here before, which I had. I think actually, no, did I have? What was it? I had something, not precise. I had something with ballistics that was good. Opening shot ballistics. I tried this one out. It's not bad. We get a slightly faster reload. I was actually recording it to take a look at that and see how it looked, and the timing seemed extremely tight. It did help a little bit, but it's like barely noticeable. But like the Tetrad Shot ballistics, this one wouldn't be too bad. Actually, I might slap that on just to help boost my damage even more on Pierce over the Focus. I don't think Focus is that needed. But you know, there's a couple of different parts of customization. From what I can tell, I haven't found anything else that has True Shot yet. I've just only found it as a standalone. So if it does combo with things, it's out there somewhere, unbeknownst to me. And that about covers it. Like I said, very, very simple build. We're just going to be, you know, we shoot stuff and stuff dies. Very straightforward. So either way, we got one final hunt. Let's get to it. I'll see you in a second. So I was planning on doing a Rompopolo, but I just had a baddie deco quest pop up, so we're going for it. We're doing a double hunt for the final guide. Going for a tempered Ray Dow. Probably gonna get my ass beat, to be honest. Like, out of all the weapons, the heavy bowgun is the one that I am probably the least confident in. Let me actually see my hunter profile. Oh yeah, it's down there. Oh no, well I have less hunts with lance and horn than heavy bowgun, but I'm comfortable with those. Longsword is only 8. Oh my, oh my, #1 longsword hater apparently. I like the long. It's so funny to me that I have the least amount of hunts with longsword, and I had considered like, yeah, this is gonna be my main for the game at one point. But I still have the stream playthrough coming up. I might there's a lot of weapons that I've been like kind of chilling on because I'm probably gonna play a lot of you from a stream playthrough. Sword and shield's a real possibility. Longsword's another real one. Because in this, I've like the top weapons I've very much gravitated towards have been insect glaive, gun lance, charge blade, switch axe, and then dual blades. Probably in that order.
A giant bigger wasp. I guess they prefer the plenty too.
Get offensive guarded, nerd. Can I actually get this in time? No, I can't. Oh, see, this is why the resentment set works quite well.
Leave this to me. Wheels inbound. Let's cleanse that status.
Oh, I got it. Get messed up, buddy. Can't shoot through the sand dune, idiot. Trying to break his wings. Where you going? I'm not even down there. Ooh, that was quite painful. Shoot me, do this. Ooh, well, that should have hit me. I was tired. It's honestly getting kind of worked. I really like these double hunts just because, you know, with 2 monsters, the health is usually a little bit lower, so you're killing them even faster. Yes, die. Big damage in your face. You're having a bad day. It's okay, I'm gonna fuck you up. with my gun. Here comes the damage. It's really fun. Ooh. Oh no. Oh god. Frank, do you got me? So this is something that's funny. I've seen this happen a few times. If your Palico is in his thingy, he's like, you know, he wants to res, but he's busy in his little helicopter. Look at that block, bro. Oh. Thank you, Divine Blessing. And see, this is what's so good about heavy bowgun though. Like outside of when I overcommit and would take a hit to the face, like just check how chill this is. I mean, I'm just shooting, you know, I'm just shooting and that's it. It's very, very chill. Not like, you know, it's not like high commitment or anything. And I've said it for a while, but I really think of heavy bowgun as like lazy hunting, you know? Like I'm trying to do like a hunt before I go to bed, and I'm like, I don't feel like paying attention to anything. I just wanna do damage. Just die, monster. Boom. So what was the time on that? Sub 10, let's go. And now a poor Chotacabra. Oh man. I almost feel bad for this little guy. Chotacabra ain't ready for what's coming. I love Chotacabras so much. It's just like, it's a nice day for me to take a little walk. Ow, what's that? Oh god, ow, it's shooting at me. The pain, what's happening? What is this? Oh my god, my face. I was just enjoying a day. What is, oh god, what is shooting at me? Oh my god, the pain. Please stop. Please stop this. Oh no. This thing's like, get off Chata. He's our homie.
More supplies have been added.
All right, perfectly plundered.
The normal or something. I can't get any, can't get enough range to actually hit him with my pierce. Let's go! With the power clash! The only weapon besides greatsword to have both a power clash and an offset.
Time to go on the offensive.
I was almost dead. I mean, I knew it was gonna happen, but you can't escape, Frog. I'm back. I don't think I've ever killed something while mounted like this. I'm really tempted to finish the fight like this. The damage gets pitiful. Because they can just outrun you. Let's see, how bad is it really? It's not that bad.
Nimble as fierce as a cat.
I'm sorry, little one. Your journey ends here, though. And that's a sub 15 double hunt. Got to get some rewards out of that. Can't wait. Let's take a look. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, man. You just shoot, deal damage, good damage, pretty clean. Take a little hit here and there, and oh yes, look at all of the goodies. Look at all those ancient weapon fragments we got. Beautiful, and a couple of decos: Phoenix Growth, Enduring, Iron Wall. Man, I love Guardian. 1219, not bad for a double. But either way, with that, we are closing out our Ultimate Guide series on all 14 weapons. Now, obviously, there's going to be tons and tons of Wilds content on the channel. I plan on streaming a bunch of this. I plan on covering all the title updates. I love this game. So even though this is the last Ultimate Guide for now, it is certainly not the end of my Monster Hunter journey by far. But either way, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all soon.